Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the Live Well channel. You may have noticed that I've had a little bit of a hiatus from these longer videos on the channel, but that's because behind the scenes I was working to put together some amazing guests for us to talk to. Today we're talking to Maureen Paley. She is such an amazing woman, inspiration with a wealth of knowledge, and I cannot wait to have her share with you about values-based decision making. I'm not going to spill the goods here. Let's get into this conversation because you are going to have tons of takeaways. Let's do it. We are going to kick off our discussion today with Maureen Paley. We're going to talk about values-based decision-making. I'm so interested and so excited to talk about this. But before we get into the goods, I'll just have Maureen introduce herself to all of you.
Great. Well, thank you, Mary. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you today. Hi, everybody. My name is Maureen Paley. I am a coach. I own a small business called Leveling Up Coaching. I'm also a social worker, an advocate, and an accredited financial counselor. So Mary and I are going to talk today about values-based decision-making. I recently facilitated a webinar in California. I live in Sacramento, and I did it for invitees all over the state of California, focused on values-based decision-making and how we can trust our values and trust the process. So that's part of what we'll talk about today.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for being here. And I feel like we would potentially be misleading folks if we didn't mention that we've known each other for a little bit.
For a little bit, just a tiny bit.
For a little bit. So
it's been brief.
Yeah. So for everyone out there, me and Maureen and I have known each other since we were 14 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So high school friends and just stayed friends throughout. And I have to say, I was watching something recently and I was reminded that you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And although you and I don't spend a lot of physical time together, I do consider us in our own tight circle with one another. Yeah. And you've just, especially the last few years, have just taught me a ton. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for being here. So
likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So also, side note, if anyone needs any 14-year-old dirt on Mary, I'm
my
sure.
Contact info.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
She can share. Okay. All right. So let's get into this because I'm really interested in this. I've kind of been stepping into really the power in understanding your values and kind of how to figure that out. But talk to us about, what does this mean? What does it mean to make decisions that are values based?
Oh, great question. So I think a good place to start would be starting what are values anyway? What are they? I think we kind of know what they are, and we can talk about, hey, that's not in line with my values. But until we actually take a deep dive into our values and maybe do a values inventory, which is something that I suggest that people do, we really want to land on a few values. We want to clarify them, not just identify, but also clarify. And that act of clarification, especially when you do something like a values inventory, you start with a big old list of potential values. Mm-hmm. And then you minimize, and you have to throw away. It's really hard to get rid of at the end when you're just trying to get to 3 values. But what that does is it helps give you more of a laser focus about what it is that's truly important to you, and then how you can use your values as something like a North Star. It's going to be the thing that you calibrate your movements on, the thing that you calibrate your path with, going forward to make the best decisions for you. Because we have known each other for a long time, and I think we can both agree. As we've gotten older, we've probably learned that sometimes decisions just keep getting harder, right? And we can make a decision that we are content with. It's not an easy decision, but we have a sense of peace of mind. So that's something that I talk about a lot too with clients, and when with this idea of values-based decision making, is using our values so that we get clarity in our values, we have confidence in our choices, and that leads to peace of mind. So we know that the decisions get harder as we get older. So I don't know about you, but I'm in the business of peace of mind.
Listen.
I want it. I want you to have it. I want everybody to have it. So that's what we're going for.
Yeah. And I think there's like something in the water with us 40 some ladies. Yeah, because like and also I know like attracts like, but I am seeing so many of my peers just in the same space of trying to just live a more peaceful life. And so something that you mentioned that really, I mean, there's one thing I've kind of tried to eradicate from my vocabulary is, if I would have known, I would have done X, because I really feel like the process of my journey and the path that I've been on, it's where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I try not to do that, but if I can share this information with someone else that maybe could, help them. But you said, taking a values inventory. And I think the part that I can relate to so much with that is, I was on a path in my very, very busy career that others had laid out in front of me. So
Yeah.
I was chasing something, an end state that was based on other people's values. Mm-hmm. And what was happening is, and sort of what I hit a wall with a lot of the symptoms I was experiencing, I had a massive amount of anxiety. Yep. And I didn't understand, if I was doing what everyone else was telling me to do, why wasn't I more at peace with what was going on in my life?
Yeah.
And it just, until I got laser focused on, okay, Mary, time to sit down like a big girl with your notepad and answer the question, what do you want? Mm-hmm. What do you want? What do your values look like? Until I did that, I was just yes to everything. Yes, sure. yes. Right. And so that's sort of what I'm hearing from you is, the being able to make those harder decisions. Are you saying maybe it becomes a little easier when we know if they align?
I think so. I mean, I think, there's easy, and then there's but then there's these things that just line up with who we are, when we're not kind of, because it's not a kind of thing. When we are aligned with our own truth, even if it's not an easy step, we take it, because we just know that that's home. Like it's an unshakable foundation. It's more of an unshakable foundation than yes, right? Or being asked to take on other people's values and live that life according to someone else's values, right? So I think part of what the favor that we do ourselves when we do take an inventory and we get clear is that, and this could be the first time for many of us, even if, these 40-something ladies, right? Or any age, I think a values exploration is worthwhile for so many reasons. But this could be the first time we've ever asked ourselves, what do I want? And what do I value? And you brought up a really important phrase, end states. There's basically the person that's credited with defining values in terms of a personal growth and behavioral health discipline, like in academics, is a man named Milton Rokeach, and he defined it in 1973. And he talks about these end states. So it's like, these are the things that we're working towards. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if we've had the culture and maybe our families of origin and maybe other people, entities, institutions tell us what the end states we should pursue, we're going to be out of alignment. Mm-hmm. There will be discomfort. There will be suffering, right? I mean, suffering, we're all human, that's going to happen. But I think like you mentioned, what we pick up from those experiences is, I had to go through that to be able to get clear. Mm-hmm. And then, have that value and that wisdom going forward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I love that. And I think that, one of the biggest things that kind of seemed overwhelming to me at the time, because again, like you said, this could be your first time that you're exploring this. Yeah. When you get on a pathway and it almost feels like, I very much was allowing myself to be defined. My self-worth was to be defined by the external validation. It wasn't something I was looking inward for at all. It was, I did a great job. I got promoted. I got this job, a new position. And so it was very overwhelming to me to kind of sit down and say, okay, hang on, how do I answer? Because I didn't even know how to answer that question. How do you answer? So what are some ways, like you said, we start larger and then we kind of get laser focused, but what are some generic tools or generic things we can do to even start the process?
Well, that's a great question. I have a dog who's barking a lot.
She, right? Yeah. She's welcome. Anytime she wants to come say hi. Getting scolded by mom.
I'm so glad that you have the editing.
I might not edit that out though.
Okay, so the original question was, what are some things we might do? So there are a number of authors. I mean, like I mentioned, so the values exploration and doing, let's call it values work, which is the internal personal work that we do, right? Get out your notebook and start doing your values. That's something that coaches do with their clients all the time, right? You can learn that in a workshop, you can learn it, you can do it. There's different tools online, so on and so forth. I'm actually putting all of this together in a course that I'll be releasing in December of 2022. So I'm excited. It's going to be less than $100. My intention there is to bring the wisdom and the research that I've done to put the course together to people, especially to women. It's designed specifically for women, so they can do this work and they can not just do the work but carry it forward. Because the thing is that if we start to take that inventory and get clear, here's also another thing about how cool values are, is that if you want the glue that makes a behavior stick, go back to your values. So like there's a thing about knowledge up here, and then there's behavior out in the world. And how many of us live up here? I got all the knowledge. I mean, you can teach me, if you think of personal finance and budgeting, you could teach me all the budgeting 101, and I could learn everything up here. But if I'm not budgeting it out in the world in practice, I'm not seeing results. So I bring that up to say that part of this values work that we can do, and there's different ways to do it. My course is one thing. There's lots of personal growth authors that have written about it that you can try. And when we do that, part of getting that laser focus is really getting to the root of who we are and how we express ourselves in our decisions. And that's also habit change, and the key to getting better results in the future.
It's all scary. It's all scary at first. It really is.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And so I want to lay out sort of a scenario, and I know it's not necessarily decision making, but I feel like it was an example, and tell me if I'm on the right track, but it was an example that kind of played out in my own life, because and how I was able to, I guess, stay disciplined in a certain arena based on values. And so, okay, full disclosure, everyone, I know a lot of you know that I served in the Air Force for 23 years. But I have
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a confession to make. I never enjoyed working out. Like, it was never, those people who are like, don't mess with my gym time. Like, no, that wasn't me. Like, for me, I would get that kind of feeling from like crafting and making cars, like that's my rejuvenating. But I never enjoyed the process or the working out, getting up and go. But I knew that I had to do it for a multitude of reasons, multiple reasons, right? And so what I did was my credibility as a leader was extremely important to me. Yeah. And so for me to be able to show up and to be one of the fastest and to encourage others and to show up, just, that's one of the key components of great leadership, right? Is be there. So I attached my value of credibility to sort of my motivation and my discipline to want to be there, right? I didn't go begrudgingly anymore. I went because I knew I was doing and fulfilling a value of mine. Is that sort of what we're talking about here?
Absolutely. I think it makes things that have traditionally been challenging and took like that so much effort, or maybe like gave us that feeling, it makes that much more palatable. So like a great example, like you just mentioned, any type of health change. I mean, a values exploration can help you in every area of your life, but I think the most relatable is like a health change, a personal diet change, or a financial change, right? So the thing is like if you looked at my budget, if you looked at my spending month to month, you would see that a lot of my money goes to food, right? It's like, well, what the heck? I don't eat out. I actually eat out more than I used to eat out. But so for me, when I look at my budget and I look at my spending, I get a sense of, okay, this is how I connect with people, and human connection is a huge value of mine, right? And health is also a big value of mine. It's not, I don't name them in my top 3, which I'll tell you my top 3, but they're very close to that. So when I purchase food, when I go out to eat, it's usually with other people, it's with friends, it's with people who are important to me. I want to share enjoyment with them. That's something that is really important for me to feel fulfilled. Yeah. So what you notice in my spending is not like spending on my car. I take care of my car. My car is important. It's a tool, but I'm not someone who, adds accessories and gear and rims and gets it detailed and so on and so forth. So I bring this up to say, you can see through my spending, and you can see maybe through your decisions, you can almost like back into your values and get a sense of that. And so if I wanted to make a shift in my spending, if I found myself spending, being uncomfortable with my spending in a certain area, I could get back in line with that by remembering, okay, does this support, if I'm just ordering Thai food 3 times a week and having it delivered to my house, is that really supporting my value of human connection and enjoyment with other people? It's actually not. It's more like, right, man, I'm tired and I'm in. So it's like, I can size up my making a decision like spending or saving or investing, saying, is this in line with that value? And if it is, it feels a lot better, right? We kind of know what feels good and what feels okay. And it sounds like you were able to square up hating the gym, hating the workout with what you valued. Yes. That end state was what you were pursuing. So it makes that decision making, and that, in your case, developing a habit and a ritual, also a lot more palatable.
Yeah, and it really did. And that example that you just, I think that's so relatable. Listen, we don't want to look at my
I know, right?
budget.
You can tell a lot. You take a deep dive into anybody's spending, mine included.
Oh my gosh.
And find out what they value.
Yeah, like, well, listen, I could tell you, since retiring from active duty, I had to like figure out which jobs that I never did for 12 years, because my husband has been pretty much the stay-at-home dad with a flexible work schedule, and he's been doing everything. And then, I'm like, I'm going to pick up the slack, and I'm going to do, certain things here and there. And when it came to cooking, I was like, bless us all, I can't do this. I was like, I'll do anything else. So no, when it's my day to be responsible for the food, I take a little cheater code, but no, I think that, when I think back to, because before we had said hard decisions, easy decisions, or we use those words hard and easy. And when I think about when I was making decisions and I was not in alignment, I didn't understand my values, those decisions were painstakingly difficult. Yeah. And when I became laser focused on what it is that I wanted, it was like the easiest. Yeah, that's a hard pass. Like, and I, right. And I'll share an example with you, because so I'm on this trajectory for my career, and I got some people had, some judgment about me retiring early at 23 years, because I could have stayed till 30. Sure. And so some people, that seemed a little premature, but for, on this trajectory that I was on, the next position that was on the docket for me was one that would require more hours at work, way more travel time, almost half the year,
Wow.
more responsibility, things like that. And when it came time, and I just thought, okay, that's what's next. That's what everyone's telling me is next. And every time I would think about it, I would get I'd physically manifest like pains in my chest and just, why am I feeling this way? Fast forward to when I started doing this work, and I realized, what is it that I want and what do I value? I want more real, present quality time with my kids and with my husband. I want to design my own day. I want, these things are really important to me, that I'm able to be accessible to people I love, friends, have more meaningful relationships. And then when I bumped that up against this next job, I was like, oh, well, that's easy. Right? Like
clarity,
confidence, peace of mind, right?
confidence, peace of mind.
Yes. Clarity in the, wow, that doesn't match.
Yep.
The confidence that I went in and I told my boss, hey, I think we need to, no, not I think, can we pull my name from consideration? And he was like, absolutely. Yeah. And then when I walked away, it was that peace of mind that I said, oh my gosh, I just made a decision for myself. Watch out, world. Like, that's it, right?
That's the limit. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's from sort of my own testimony of when we get laser focused. And so do you find that, or have you seen in your experience that some people do have those physical reactions?
Yeah, I'm definitely someone who does as well. So, and I like anybody with a pulse is going to have those reactions too. Yeah. So this is also why, I mean, some people can go to work and chronically have a cold or something, there's all sorts of body, and I mean, we know that there's a body-mind connection, right? And when we are out of alignment, something in you will tell you that you're not in alignment. So when we practice stronger alignment with intention, less of those things will happen, and we'll feel fresher and lighter and clearer. And it's almost like you don't even, the confidence is just there to say, let's take my name out of consideration. You don't even have to like work up the confidence. You know what I mean? It's just it's just clear, right? There's all sorts of physiological reactions, either in the moment or longer term. Some people might have like really crazy dreams that might be starting to tell them, right? Because sometimes something that we're not ready to accept, a misalignment we're not ready to accept up here, it's going to be processed somewhere inside of us, and it can come out in all sorts of ways. So you're bringing up an excellent point. That's something that, as a social worker, as someone who's been to grad school for behavioral stuff, you know what I mean, and overall wellness, social wellness, I haven't dove into it, especially in my course, but I mean, I think this is the message that you're sharing, and in your communities, and also that some of our best thinkers are sharing. We have to take care of ourselves too. And I also think there's like a feedback loop. So it's like, maybe the more I take care of myself, maybe the more my values start to show up. And you know what I mean? It's like, it can even start at the whole taking care of myself, taking care of my anxiety, removing the circumstances as best as I can, because not everybody can all the time, right? Removing the things that do make me anxious and soothing my nervous system, so that when our nervous system is soothed and we've got all those good chemicals, the oxytocin and the dopamine and all those things humming and helping us feel good, that's when we feel comfortable and nourished to take risks, and we feel more confident and more peace of mind in making those decisions. We actually we learn better, we love better, we do everything better in that whole state rather than in a fearful state. So that can also be powerful too.
Yeah, I don't even think that I share this as this is a bit of a vulnerable moment, but I remember at the worst of it for myself, and this is something I openly share on this channel and my other, but one thing that I was so certain of in that moment of when I was really at my worst. I was so certain I would never feel joy again. And it was the weirdest thing, because I've fluctuated throughout my life. I've had ups and downs and all this, but at this moment, because I had neglected myself for so long and just put Mary somewhere in the back corner for so many years, I mean, upwards of a decade. Yeah. Then I was, when it really came to it, I was like, yeah, this is it for me. I'm just going to have to consider that this is how I'll feel forever. But there was one last ditch effort in me that said, okay, you don't have to feel on top of the world tomorrow, right? But do one thing, do one thing that's for you and you alone. And so when you bring up that wellness could lead us to our values, that so resonates with me.
Oh, I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it was that one thing that I just, in the morning, I just wrote one positive affirmation. The next day I would write one thing that brought me joy. These are things I knew. I didn't have to search very far for them. Like, I knew what brought me joy. So I would write it down.
Go for the low hanging fruit, especially to start. We don't have to reach for the stars. It's like, and a lot of it is right in front of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the hardest questions. I know a lot of women I talk to, one of the hardest questions for them to answer is, what do you want out of life? That is like, I don't even know where to start. And then there's this self, the negative narrative towards our own self about how could you not know what you want? And,
Yeah. I mean, the like all of these conditioned, all these voices that have come at us since we've come out of the womb. It's been like, well, you have to take care of your family. Well, now you can have it all. So you better have it all, and you can do everything. So you better do everything, and you should take better care of yourself, and you should be healthy and fit. I mean, it's like, whoa, that's a lot of pressure. So we find ourselves, no wonder we can't say, I don't know. I mean, no wonder we can't name what it is we want out of our lives, because we also have all these expectations to live up to. So I think for us, from a gender perspective as women, getting inside of us and giving ourselves permission, first of all, to just want.
Yes.
I want. Yes. As women, we're not supposed to want. We're supposed, if we want anything, we're supposed to want for other people. We're supposed to want for our mom, our dad, our partner, our children, you know what I mean, right? It's like, but what do I want? And we can start asking ourselves that and bring in values to really open up so much, not just opportunity, but like, I think a very rich and gratifying experience, no matter what we do. For me, it's like, what you and I, we value some similar things. And I think that's why we're still friends after all these years. Right. But I mean, going back to like the finances and the spending, it's like, you might spend your money on this and I might spend my money on that. And it's like, it's all good, because everybody has different values and everybody has their own unique way of expressing them out in the world. Right. So getting in touch with that. And it's interesting. I found that when I do the values work, I'm a better support person for other people.
I was just going to say that.
I'm like, hey, you do you. They're like, I'm not going to judge you for spending money. If you want to buy those shoes or those handbags or those rims or those whatever, good, do that. You know what I mean? If that helps you feel a richer, more gratifying experience of life, that's what's the most important thing. I mean, this is just an example on spending, but it's an easy example to go to. But yeah, it helps us kind of, when we're okay with our values and we get clear on them, and then we see other people and their values, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, cool.
I promise you, if we had like a speech bubble over my head, like one of those little thinking bubbles, as soon as you started talking about this, I was thinking about how the more work I do on me, the more empathetic I am and the more connected I am to other people. And how I don't meet them with judgment. I meet them with curiosity.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And I'm like, I figured this out for me. You figured that out for you? Like even our check-ins, we check in once a month, usually when we have the time, right?
Yeah.
But even during that, it's like, what's going on with you? I'm so curious.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I've noticed that a great deal. And I think that there is something to be said for, when you can extend yourself grace, you can extend grace to others in a different way. I was very supportive and very empathetic, and I thought really a great connector with people, but I didn't even know to the level at which I was even holding myself back because I wasn't giving to myself at all.
Yeah.
That was eye-opening for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing the insights that show up when we do start to do the internal work, right? It's like not just about ourselves, but about others and how we can be in relationships differently. The relationship with ourselves changes. It's interesting that you brought this up because I meet with an accountability group once a week. We're all small business owners and we're helping each other and supporting each other, basically. And I told them I can be the first one ready to say, give yourself some grace. And I went to them yesterday, not in the best place, but knowing I could go to them, and I started saying, I need you all to give me some grace. And for me, that's not something I ask other people to do for me, because I'm good at letting people know, oh, I'll help you. You don't have to help me. Right. So, I'd say in the past several years, I've really now I've seen it goes outward and it comes back and it goes out. And then, you have these really interesting experiences that you're right, you do get a bit more curious about. And for me, that's been like a relief to just be curious rather than blacking and whiting something. It's either this or it's this or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, I wonder, you know what I mean? What is going on there? Even internally with other people. I love bringing curiosity and curious questions into the coaching I do with clients, because for me, the getting into that space, or at least helping them to get into that space of curiosity rather than has to be this way, has to be that way, have to measure up, have to meet expectations. It's like, let's just get curious about what's going on here first. It's gratifying in a way that for me, it's like, I don't know, when you feel it, you're like, okay, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I think what's fun about that, and I'm going to ask you about the coaching, but I think what's fun about that interaction with others is no two conversations are ever going to be alike.
No.
That just keeps that curiosity just keeps feeding into everything you're doing. So I was going to ask you about coaching. How have you attached because there's obviously, with your background in education and resume, there is a million things you could be doing. And so what is it about the coaching aspect and how that aligns with your own values?
Oh my goodness gracious. I am so glad that you asked this question. So I value nothing more than to be present with someone in a space where they are taking a bet on themselves. Like for me, that's where they're actually, it's a leap of faith. It's about trust. It's about faith. It's about stepping out. And I have been so privileged to be in those places with so many people over the past 8-9 years. I've worked in social services, and then as a coach as well in financial spaces, and also working with service members on financial things and so on and so forth. For me, that I call it the juice. Like, that's where I get my juice. It's like, and I think a term that I'm also, this is from Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap. He talks about, what is your zone of genius? I've thankfully gotten more clear, right? More clarity on my zone of genius. So I make the intention to live in it more. And I believe that my zone of genius does show up in coaching support for others, because it's about holding space. Like, I don't tell anybody what to do. I don't give anybody advice. I'm asking questions that creates a space where someone can actually rediscover their strengths. Because did you forget your strengths? Did you forget?
Wait, when I was what? When I was
When you were,
misaligned?
yeah.
I think I did forget them.
Yeah. I mean, like we have to get inside and it's like,
Yeah.
because we can't quite, they get eclipsed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They get eclipsed out of our view because we're misaligned. So when we get aligned again, we can start rediscovering our strengths. And then we can, then again, clarity, confidence, you have that confidence to step out. So, so that's one way that I bring it up in the coaching, and that's my zone of genius. And I mean, if I can help someone else find their zone of genius, that is just icing on the cake, right?
So wait, so educate us on the zone of genius is like what's that zone?
So your zone, so I'm not going to get this perfect, so please go read the book, but I will basically, so there's like a zone of incompetence. There's a zone of, there's another zone in each, there's a zone of competence. So it's like, I'm really bad at these things.
Mm-hmm.
I can do these things.
Mm-hmm.
There's a zone of excellence. I do these things very well, and I get a lot of good feedback and admiration for them.
Okay.
Then there's the zone of genius. So that there's lots of things you're good at, but the zone of genius is the one where like time disappears and you have, it is naturally, organically energizing for you, and it keeps you going. So you could do it all day. You could do it. I mean, granted, we all need to, take breaks and rest, but it's the type of thing that you could do. It is a self-sustaining and self-flourishing type of work that you were meant to do, essentially.
Okay, so
that's how I would describe it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And if you're watching this, I almost would bet that you are thinking, what is that thing?
Yeah.
What is that thing that time just slips away? And that's one of the questions I have asked, trying to help people kind of narrow down a little bit of their focus. But one of the questions that I heard one time, and it was just like, so on point, was what's the thing you're doing when you're procrastinating from what you ought to be doing? Like, what's that thing you're doing that you just, and for me, it was like, I'd sneak away to my craft room and I would like make some cards. So, I found a way to bring that into my life in some way, but yeah, no, I love that. So that's you would say that coaching aspect is your zone of genius.
It is. And I think, part of the experience I've had of working so closely in one-on-one support with people in social services for these past years has been so fruitful and so giving to me. And when I look back at my other employment experiences and my background and things like that, misalignment, I think sometimes you also have to do some things that aren't your zone of genius to figure out what your zone of genius is. You have to, I'm still working on clarifying things, and there's still things that come up that I get wrong. And I mean, that's the nature of being human, and also being reflective and being curious. Right. But this is, I consider it a privilege to work with people in these spaces. I mean, I'm the type of coach that shows up to a coaching session like I don't do this outwardly, but internally I'm like, I can't wait to hear about everything that they've done, and not just cheer them on, but because it's more than cheerleading. It's really being a supportive. I mean, the best thing I can do in a coaching session is kind of almost disappear. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? It's like I keep reminding myself that as a coach, like if I'm asking good questions, it's almost like they're really reflecting, they're doing all the work, and I'm not doing the work. So, well,
I'm going to put in, like, I'm not actively taking clients for coaching, but I have to tell you, a friend of mine did a 30-minute coaching session with me. And I didn't even know that I didn't know what I didn't know. And I went in there, right? And through just questions, there was no advice. Because I think people need to understand, that aspect of coaching. The whole point is really the right questions help you get to the answers you probably already knew, but maybe you just needed that exploration. So I was like, oh, I'm writing a book. This is da da da. But I really had written like 2 pages. And so I get in with him and he's like, okay, he asked me all the questions I needed to be asked. I went out of there having replaced my 15 minutes of email checking with 15 minutes of writing and have half the book written now.
Yeah.
Like, so it was just everything I needed in 30 minutes. But no, so that's my personal testimony and plug for coaching. I think it is one of the best ways to invest in yourself. To kind of explore that if you need a little assistance to do so.
I totally agree. I mean, I think, and there's all sorts of, sometimes I think like life coaching gets a bad rap. We have a stereotypical life coach, but seriously, working with someone who, that person is there for you. That person is on your team. I mean, that's the person has the skill and they're with you in this experiment, basically. So, partnering, it's really a partnership with somebody and this is how I phrase it, like take a risk on yourself, and part of it can be painful at times, emotionally, and we can kind of have these like, are you kidding? Like, I can't believe I was doing that the whole time, right? Like these insights that pop up in our growing pains, and the payoff, I think, is just so rewarding. It's so for me, I went to grad school originally thinking I would be a therapist. I love therapists. I've discovered that it's not my zone of genius, and I think working with people in a coaching capacity, supporting them in that way is so.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I tell you, I know you haven't like formally coached me, but I think when it's in you, it's hard to unlearn these because they work so well. So it's like, I find myself doing it with the kids too. I'm like, okay, well, let's think about what are some other ways.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of it's just like, possibilities. Let's just look at things. Let's open it up. Yeah.
No, I love that. And one thing I just want to circle back to real quick. You had said betting on yourself. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can start to really allow ourselves to think about, because I saw this, it was like a college speech that Jim Carrey was giving. And he was, oh my gosh. And he was talking about how his dad could have been a great comedian, but it was too risky. He didn't think he'd ever make it. And he just stayed with this job and years later got laid off. He's like, if you're going to fail at what you're not great at, why not take the chance?
Yeah.
So, what's the risk then? Just go do what you're meant to do. And that was really meaningful to me. So when you said that was really, that was really important. So, okay. So listen, so much good stuff here. I think I would like to kind of turn it over to you for sort of what's one thing that you'd like the audience to leave with today with regard to values-based decision-making, and that you hope that they can take away and maybe start to work on that for themselves?
Oh, great question. Well, I certainly hope they consider, it's hard to trust that there's going to be a payoff when you don't have evidence right in front of you, right? Like, it's like, but you shared your testimony, and what I like to share with people is that, I've done this work too, and it's really, it helps me get centered and me aligned in the everyday things that I do and in the bigger things that I do. So if you're looking for a way to go deeper into why you do what you do and how you might be able to change and do things a little bit more leveled up. I don't want to say do them better, because a lot of people are already doing a really good job. But if you're looking for that's going to help you get to the next level, the next step, the thing that's going to help you cross that bridge, because you might have a sneaking suspicion that what's in front of you right now is good. You're grateful for it, but there's a leap you need to take, or you've got a sneaking suspicion there's something else you might want to do or that you need to do, right? Yeah. Consider doing values work. Consider bringing values into your decision making. like I said, I'll be releasing a course in December on this. And there's plenty of, let's see, Brene Brown, Martha Beck, Gay Hendricks. He doesn't talk, at least not that I've read of his, doesn't talk about values specifically, but lots of self-growth professionals talk about it regularly. Consider coaching. And all coaching isn't necessarily one-on-one coaching. There's also group coaching, which is a really awesome way to get connected to other people, to build community and build resilience together. That's something I'm going to be launching group coaching in January as well. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, I mean, I would say take a bet on this values work so you can take a bet on yourself. Yeah.
If this was not so big, I would drop it. I love that. Okay, well, listen, before we close out, tell us where we can find out more about you. I know all this will be linked below in the description of this video, so all the contacts for you, but where are you out on the interweb?
On the interwebs. So I'm on Instagram. You can find me at Maureen Paley MSW. So it's my first name, last name, MSW. You can also find me at my website, which is maureenpaley.podia.com. Yeah. And you can also book, I start every client I work with, I start with a 30-minute free call. So, I mean, you can test drive it. You can just talk about what you're working on or what you want to work on. And sometimes people will come to me and it's like, I might not be the right fit for them, or, you know, I'm actually might not be able to meet their needs and I might refer them somewhere else. So that's totally fair. But if you following on IG, you'll get the link in my bio to how to book a 30-minute, to my website. I'll be posting the course link there when it's ready. So yeah, you can find me. So.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, because I definitely want to make sure that stuff is below, because if you have some sort of a notification list that you want folks to sign up with to get that straight into their inbox, maybe, or just, yeah.
So if you go to my website, you can also join my newsletter. So,
yeah, because you're going to want to get notified. She's got a lot coming. I mean, we're talking a course. I'm assuming at your own pace. Potentially.
Oh yeah, it's totally the way that I've designed it. You know, I've thought about, a lot of us do like a self-care Saturday or a self-care Sunday, right? It's like, what do? You might go get a massage or pedicure, you know, you do something for yourself, right? So I looked at this is like a self-care day for yourself that can have exponential potential in terms of how you use it in your life. And it comes finances, work, relationships, business decisions. It's going to come in handy everywhere. You're going to start seeing like, oh my God, values are everywhere. So, yeah. So like I said, it's going to be under $100. Like you would spend $100 on a massage, on a really good massage. So
yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so awesome. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to sign up for that. And share it, because I'm all about that. And thank you for plugging self-care to be multiple things, because yes, that's a whole, listen, we're having you back because that's a whole other conversation about self-care is not just the box of self-care, right? It's about caring for self. Yeah. So yeah, no, I love that. Thank you so much. Well, I cannot thank you enough for being here with us, for sharing this wealth of knowledge.
Can I thank you?
What?
Can I thank you?
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having this conversation, because I think that this normalizes conversations like this and it helps people feel less alone and cared for. So thank you. I'm grateful for you.
Oh, likewise. All right, lady, I love you, and we are going to have you back.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Okay, there you have it. I cannot wait to hear what you all thought in the comments down below. Don't forget to check out in the description box below this video. You're going to have all the listing of every place you can find Maureen and connect with her. Don't forget to get on that mailing list and follow her so that you can be the first to find out when she releases this amazing course that she's got coming up for us in December. So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to be well and live well. Bye-bye.